As a student leader, I should say.
Yes.
You're going to start the year well.
Yeah,
You're almost,
yeah.
the attempt at, you've just got the badge. Everyone's new to the positions. You've just started. Everyone's like, this is awesome.
Yes.
We are the best student leaders anybody has ever seen. And you get all motivated. You do all this great stuff. You listen to the Student Leadership News podcast. You get all fired up. That's great. But how are you going to finish?
Yes.
This is the Student Leadership News Podcast.
Well, hey, welcome to the Student Leadership News Podcast. This is episode 27, would you believe? Wherever you're listening, it is fantastic to have you here today. And here joining me and to tell you about what we're going to be doing today, Cam.
Hey, Caleb, how are you going?
Great,
how are you going?
man. What is going on?
It's good to be back on the podcast. And you know what? I've looked at the run sheet and there's no crazy challenge, so that's a sigh of relief.
The producers here were like, you guys are just too crazy. So we said, we'll get back to you with our next crazy challenge. Just let us order a whole bunch of stuff off the internet first.
They just give it a bit more time to settle down. Now, Caleb, I'm really excited. When I heard that we were doing this podcast again together, I was really excited. However, I realized something a while ago.
Hit me.
We talk a lot about sport on this podcast. We talk a lot about food on this podcast.
Yes, we do.
But we've never done quick fire questions. We've never really found out much about each other. Now,
Okay.
now, I know a lot about you. You're one of my friends. So I know things about you.
You know, like off camera, we actually hate each other. So it's
Oh,
always
Caleb,
interesting.
no,
when
we don't. No, we
it's-
don't.
yeah,
Play
it's-
it up.
It's true.
No,
It's true.
I reckon I know a bit about you. These are some things that I outlined that I probably have never asked you about.
Okay.
However, I thought, as listeners, this is probably a fun way that we could get started and people could find out a little bit more about one of their hosts.
Okay, well, this will be interesting.
Now-
Get into my deep, dark secrets here. Let's see what happens.
Now, this is quick fire questions. I've got 5 questions. This isn't going to take much time at all. And I've got an air horn right here on my phone.
Yep.
I'll play it for everyone.
Wow.
There you go. It's great.
For those of you listening at home, Cam is actually holding a real air horn.
Yeah, no. It's just my
not.
iPhone, and there's 4 different sounds. But we're not going to dawdle too much on that. I want to get into these questions. If you take too long with these questions, I'm gonna air horn you with one of these air horns.
Okay, quick fire answers or
Quick
I
fire.
get air horned.
Okay, so here's your first question. What's your favorite
Here we
food?
go. Favorite food is chicken parmesan.
Oh, chicken parmesan.
Or custard tart if it's a sweet thing. Sorry, I'm indecisive.
The air horn. Okay, if you were watching, you saw me try to air horn him. Didn't work.
because it's a free air horn and the ad popped
It's a
up.
free ad. Yeah, there was an ad. Okay, second one. Favorite pastime activity?
Favorite pastime activity
Yep.
is probably frisbee. I don't know.
You like frisbee?
I just
Okay.
answered it really quick.
Nice.
you know?
Okay, favorite color?
Okay, blue today.
Nah, too long.
Dang it.
It gave you 1 second for that one. No, blue. Okay, blue today.
I don't even know if my answers are true. I'm answering so fast, but let's go with it.
Favorite sport?
Okay, AFL.
Okay,
There we
that's
go.
a good
Got
one.
that
Okay, which team do you go for?
Essendon Bombers. See the Bombers fly.
No, too long. Too long.
Come
Too long.
on. I was trying to get this
No, that's
off.
good. That's good. Okay, and your favorite artist?
My favorite artist right now is probably it's so many artists. Cameron Armstrong.
I feel like you were really milking that one for the air horn.
I kind of didn't want to probably John Mayer.
John
but
Mayer,
I was
okay.
too slow with the mark, so I apologize.
Okay, that's cool. I thought maybe painting artist, but you went with John Mayer.
Sure.
No.
Oh
John
yes,
Mayer.
right into Monet. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, there you go. We've never done that before, but there's some quick fire questions. People found out a little bit more
And
about
then you better believe I'm going to be after you in the next episode.
Okay, I'll start thinking of answers for the same
don't know what I'm
questions,
gonna ask.
just in case you copy them. Okay, well, Caleb, we've got a big episode ahead. I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite ideas at the moment. We're going to find out a best leadership tip from you again, which has quite a good story to it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we're going to discuss a top 3, which is a really important top 3,
Absolutely.
especially for student leaders. But that's enough for now. We're going to tell you no more. We hope you enjoy this episode of the
For
podcast.
sure. So let's jump into the first segment.
Let's do it.
My favorite idea.
All right, my favorite idea. We were discussing this before in the studio, and Cam was like, "You know what? I've got it." He hasn't told me what it is. So Cam, tell me about this favorite idea of yours.
Now, this is actually an idea. It just went up on our website today. Now, we're recording this a little bit before this podcast is actually being released.
Sure.
So if you're watching on our website every day for the articles, I suggest that.
Hit 'em up.
Like
They're
humble
awesome.
brag. It's great.
Little plug there. Very
a
good.
little plug. Studentleadership.news is where you can find it. You may have to go back a little bit, but it's actually about a fundraiser that requires absolutely no funds at all.
How do you do a fundraiser without funds, Cam?
Exactly. Well, the thing is, let's cover this first, Caleb. Every student leader wants to fundraise.
Of course, it's a very important thing. You want to be able to raise finance to empower some great organizations to do their great work. It makes sense.
Exactly. And I think there's 2 different types of fundraise. You can empower other organizations, or you can fundraise for your own school to get resources.
Yeah, cool. That makes sense.
Now, I'm going to be talking about the second one, how to fundraise for your school, but with absolutely like raising no money.
Cam, you're crazy. How am I supposed to buy new footy gear for my school if I don't have the dollar bills to do it?
That's a great question. Now, there's this excellent program that Woolworths runs called Earn and Learn.
Earn and Learn.
Now, most people have probably heard of it. Very nice. The Woolworths theme song there. Love it. Earn and Learn is all about, if you spend $10 at Woolworths, you actually get like this little collector token kind of thing. Now, once the Earn and Learn program finishes, I believe there's a time on it. If your school cashes those things in, they can actually get a number of different items with them.
Right. So you're not paying for them with money, they're paying for them with these tokens.
No, it's like money that you've previously spent, you get a token for it, and you don't have to buy the token, but you get given a token as well. And you can claim thousands of prizes with them. Well, not prizes, you can claim thousands of different things.
Any
like
custard tart or chicken parmesan?
I don't think so.
We'll
but
have to check that
more
out.
like sporting equipment and stuff like that.
Cool.
However, I don't want to dawdle too much about it. I want you guys to actually, if you're wanting to find out more about how you can fundraise for your own school without doing funds, just head across to Woolworths. I believe if you search Earn and Learn Woolworths, you'll be able to find it right there. Otherwise, head to our website and studentleadership.news. It's the article called The Fundraiser That Requires No Funds.
Boom.
And you can find it right
I
there.
love it. And you'll be able to buy all the custard tarts your school needs.
Or sporting equipment.
Probably sporting equipment.
Yeah, probably. But then you can write off the custard tarts that you bought that then funded the sporting equipment.
See,
how good.
now you're talking.
No, but Caleb, that's my absolute favorite idea at the moment. I think it's an absolute great way that you can help your school out in so many different ways. But that's my favorite idea. Caleb, let's jump, though, into our next segment.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Top 3.
Okay, Caleb, I'm actually really excited for this segment. We're talking about the top 3 ways of identifying your strengths and weaknesses.
Which is huge for student leaders, right? Because you want to be able to contribute to your team in the best possible way. And how are you going to do that? I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Find out ways to use your strengths and ways to delegate or avoid having to find areas of your weakness.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with strengths and weaknesses is we've probably talked about it a few times on this podcast. We talked about using your strengths. But the question stands, how do I identify my strength as a student leader? How do I identify my weaknesses?
That's a very good question.
There's so many things you have to do throughout the year. Why should I just do my strengths, or why should I delegate my weaknesses? Why don't I just get into things?
Yep.
But it's really important that you actually contribute your strengths.
Essential, in fact.
Yes, it actually makes your team so much better if you do those things. But Caleb, we've talked so much about using your strengths, but now we're going to help student leaders actually identify what those strengths and weaknesses are. We've got the top 3 tips right now.
We might even use these tips and see if we can find our strengths and weaknesses later and let you know how we go.
Sounds good.
Let's test it out.
We'll update it in a further podcast.
I like it.
But for now, let's give the tips. How do we identify our strengths and weaknesses? Caleb, you go.
Okay, first, number 1,
Yep.
identifying your strengths and weaknesses. Number 1 is you have to try things.
Okay.
You're never going to know what you're good at and what you're not so good at unless you give it a try. You see, a trap to fall into is that you just don't try anything because you're worried you'll fail.
Yeah. Yep.
But you're never going to find out what you're good at if you haven't tried it in the first place.
Yes.
For me, singing.
Okay.
Singing's a funny story because I love to sing.
Yep.
I'd never done it before in my life. And one of my teachers back in school was like, dude, you are joining the school band. And I was like, great, I'll play keyboard because I play keyboard. And he's like, no, you're not playing keyboard. He's like, you're singing.
Okay.
And this was the day before. And I've never sung before. And my teacher was like, you're doing it.
Oh, wow.
And now I sing all the time.
Okay.
Do you want me to sing now?
No, that's all good.
Okay, maybe later.
We'll come back to another podcast
Number 1,
with that.
try things.
Try things. Okay. Caleb, number 2 is ask people. Now, I think this kind of goes into feedback. Now, not just any people. I think you have to keep accountable to different people. So once you've tried things, you have to ask people, what do you think? How did I go with this?
Yep.
Maybe ask the teachers who are overseeing the SRC or the team leadership, or maybe ask the different people in your leadership team. But you need to ask them, which of these things did I just contribute to that actually made a valuable contribution to our team? Which one of these things helped our team progress further? Maybe which one of these things did I not do so well at that maybe if future reference I should just delegate to someone else? And when you start looking at it from that team perspective, when you start looking at your things, getting feedback from people, then you'll probably realize, oh, some of these things I'm really good at. Other people think I'm really good at them as well. Oh, I didn't actually feel like I was really good at taking notes, and people saw that. And so maybe I should just avoid taking notes in the future. But I'll keep doing event ideas
love
because I'm really good at that,
That's
and
great.
everyone else saw that. So
That's great.
ask
Like we
people.
were talking about those awesome event ideas like a few podcasts back.
Yes,
The biggest
yes.
Anzac cookie would cut. You're a genius, Ken.
No, I wasn't that great at event ideas back in school, but people told me that, and it's because I asked them.
Very
But there
cool.
you go. Number 2, how to find out strengths and weaknesses. Ask people. What's
Nice
yours?
one. Let me wrap it up. Number 3.
Okay.
Understand. I love this. Understand that things are fluid.
Okay.
Let me explain to you what I mean by this.
Yes.
You see, you're not going to get good at everything you try straight away, right? And sometimes it's not going to work out the way you want it to. But sometimes it might be something you're good at, but it'll take time to progress to that point where you could actually consider it a strength of yours.
Yep.
So things are fluid. Things will change as you try them. So if you try and it doesn't work out the first time, that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. Just get that feedback like you were talking about, right? Keep trying things like we were talking about. It's very important you understand that things will change. Things are fluid.
That's very true. I remember the first time I went surfing. I'd just gotten given a surfboard.
Was I there?
No, I don't think so. But
I remember
but
some
It
surfs.
probably looks like the first time I went surfing because I was that bad. But I remember the first time I went surfing and I gave it a shot and I hated it so much because I was so bad at it. And I just said, I want to give up. But after a week of doing it, I was like, oh, this is the best thing ever. I want to surf all the time.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing can happen for
Fantastic.
student leaders.
I totally agree. For
Yeah.
student leaders, like you were talking about, those examples before, note taking, playing event,
Yep.
so many different things you got to do. Try them,
Yep.
get feedback on them,
Yep.
but understand they're fluid. It
Exactly.
might take time for you to upskill yourself to be a master of note taking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a very fine art, that one.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. So keep going. Keep going. That's the last tip there. Things are fluid.
Things are fluid.
We'll get right back to this episode of the Student Leadership News podcast, which is sponsored by Halogen Australia. Halogen Australia has been running the National Young Leaders Days for over 20 years and have reached over 437,000 young leaders around Australia. The National Young Leaders Day is a great opportunity to be inspired by a variety of high-profile Australians. Head to www.halogen.org.au to find out more about the National Young Leaders Day. Now let's jump back into this jam-packed episode of the Student Leadership News podcast.
Caleb, into the final segment of the podcast, best leadership tips. This is one of my favorite segments,
I love
just because
this.
BLT, you know,
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
I
we
love
went
food.
there.
I can't help it. If I get to intro this, I get to talk about BLTs.
One time we should totally bring BLTs along, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
Let's eat BLTs next time we do BLT.
Say no more.
Boom, give me that. Let's do this.
We're definitely going to try and do that. We basically just did a handshake / like fist bump kind of
Let's
thing.
call it the BLT.
Okay, BLT handshake locked in.
Actually, comment below. Like, we want to hear and we want to see if you can do it. Your best BLT handshake.
Okay.
Challenge
I
is
like
out.
that. Okay, call is out. Okay, give us your best BLT handshake.
And,
we can't wait
you'll
to
see it on the show. Cam and I will try to do it on the show.
Okay, I like that. Okay, no more sidetracking. We sidetrack enough in this segment with talking about food. Caleb, a few weeks ago,
Yes.
we went into a story of yours about hiking
Yes.
and 2-minute noodles.
Yes.
And you told us the best leadership tip, and it was absolutely profound out of nowhere.
I'm glad you liked it. The 2-minute noodle thing was profound, but baby, the BLT that I got out of it, even better.
Yeah, and I when we were playing this podcast, I decided that we'd give you another BLT.
Oh, yes.
And I asked you, okay, Caleb, do you want to do a BLT? What's your best leadership tip at the moment? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you anything, but it's another story and it's got to do with a triathlon. And
That's
I was
right.
like, okay, I can't wait to hear this because it just seems I'm waiting like on your triathlon. Were you eating 2-minute noodles or something? Like,
Yeah,
who knows? I
see-
can't wait to hear the story. But give me no more suspense. tell me your story. What's your best leadership tip that you figured out from a triathlon?
I'm just disappointed I didn't take 2-minute noodles on the bike now. Like, can you imagine some guy just riding the bike and just smashed it anyways?
A bowl of it, just like hot noodles. Opponents riding past, just flicking noodles on them. No, I'm just kidding. That's bad sportsmanship, and
What
we're against that.
could go wrong?
Yeah, nothing. But Caleb, no more sidetracks. You were competing in a triathlon
Yep.
last a couple of weekends ago, and you were absolutely brilliant at it. I hear.
Thanks, Cam. But that's actually not the case, which is where the story comes from.
Oh, okay.
Right, so check this out.
I thought you did excellent.
Oh,
but,
well, it
but
was
tell
okay.
us more.
It was okay.
Tell us more.
It was okay, right? So
something I've
it's my little brother, right?
Okay.
It's his first triathlon ever, and so it's like, you know what? I gotta do it, and it's my second triathlon, so I'm like there brushing off my shoulders, like I'm actually brushing off my shoulders. If you're listening at home, like I don't even care. And it was like, I'm gonna nail this. I've done one before. I'm gonna crush this. So I went out there on the day, right? And my favorite part of a triathlon is
Yep.
the run.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, last time I did triathlon, I survived the swim, survived the bike, and then I was like, oh my goodness, thank goodness I actually get to run now.
Yeah.
And I ran well.
It's your
to finish.
favorite part.
It's my favorite part for sure. I swim like a drowned rat, right? But this time I was like, I'm going to do the swim and the bike well. I was determined to do the swim and the bike well. I was determined to start well.
Okay.
Right? And so I took off and I swam as hard as I could and I did a record time for swimming. I was like,
Ooh.
for me, this is amazing. This
Yeah.
is so good. And I was racing one of my friends and he started 9 minutes ahead of me and I almost came out of the water before him.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is fantastic. So I was running up there and I was just about to get on the bike and I was like, I'm going to ride as hard as I can. I'm going to do a record time on the bike. And so I went out there. I didn't remember my 2-minute noodles, which was disappointing.
Very disappointing.
I'm sorry about that, Cam. But I jumped on the bike and I rode to my best bike time that I've ever done over that distance. I was like, this is fantastic. And then I arrived at the run,
Okay.
which is usually my favorite part.
Yeah.
It didn't go well.
Oh, no.
See, it was a 10-kilometer run. 6 kilometers in, I had nothing left.
Oh, no.
I had nothing left. I
You
ran
need
out
some
of
noodles.
gas. I needed some noodles, Cam. I ran out of gas, man. There was nothing left in the tank. I was like, man, this is going to hurt. The last 4 kilometers of this, I'm going to be like crawling on the ground like, someone feed me noodles. Like, it was almost that bad. Fortunately, it didn't get to that level. But you heard what I said before, right?
Yep.
I started well.
Yes, yep.
Okay? But here's my BLT.
Okay, give us your... Absolutely out of
Here
nowhere.
we
I
go.
can't wait to hear
Here we
this.
go.
Your BLT is?
Start well, but be ready to finish too.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's good.
Do you
Yep.
hear me?
Yep.
So as a student leadership, right? As a student leader, I should say.
Yes.
You're going to start the year well.
Yeah,
You're almost
yeah.
the attempt at you've just got the badge. Everyone's new to the positions. You've just started. Everyone's like, "This is awesome.
Yes.
We are the best student leaders anybody has ever seen." And you get all motivated. You do all this great stuff. You listen to the Student Leadership News podcast. You get all fired up. That's great. But how are you going to finish?
Yes.
Right? I took off on this race and I crushed the first 2/3 of it. And then the last third, don't want to remember that. That was painful.
Yeah.
I didn't plan how I was going to finish the race. So for you student
good.
leaders out there right now, I want you to hear this. You have to start well,
Yeah.
like I did, but also plan to finish well. You got to plan it. Think about how you're going to make sure you finish well also.
Ah, that's good because I think it's so tempting as a student leader. I know this happened for me. You start thinking of events you want to do throughout the year. You have this massive brainstorming session. You write down all these things you want to do. And then throughout the year, as like the burden of student leadership, as the opportunities come up and different things come up, you start to be like, oh, I just don't have time for it.
I
And
hear
you just leave it aside. You're like, oh well,
Sure,
we got
like study gets in the
80%
way
there.
or- yeah.
We just left the rest behind.
Yep.
And I think it can happen for so many different areas for student leaders. But I love that tip. You know, be willing to start strong, but finish
Plan
strong as well.
to finish
Yeah.
well.
That's great. That's great. Okay, Caleb, that's an excellent BLT. I love how you always bring some sort of random story into it. So I can't wait for your next one.
And I love that you agreed to bring BLTs to the next BLT. So remember that, listeners at home, because when I tell Cam I'm bringing bacon, lettuce, and tomato for the next podcast, he's going to be like, what? And I'm going to be like, you said we could do it, Cam. And so it's happening.
I will not fuss because food is my thing.
BLT bump.
Yes, excellent. Okay, that's developed a
That
lot
was a
more.
change up.
There's some inspiration for those at home. But Caleb, this brings us through to the end of this episode. It's been a good one. We've covered a whole bunch of topics. Just to call out to our listeners, let us know if you're enjoying it. Let us know. Let us
for the BLT.
Yeah,
Nice.
just thought of that one then. Classic joke. Let us know where you are listening to this from, and maybe even just tag us in it. And we'd love to see if you are enjoying this episode. It's always fun being on the podcast with you, though, Caleb. And can't wait for next time
Bring it
with the BLTs. Now I know next time lunch is secured.
Lunch is, we're doing this. This is a lunchtime podcast.
I will not bring lunch. No, that's great. Thanks for being on this podcast, Caleb, and thanks for listening along, everyone. And feel free to send us questions to editor@studentleadership.news or head across to the website studentleadership.news. You'll find a whole bunch of resources to keep inspiring and equipping you with different ways that you can lead back at school.
Fantastic.
But for now, rounding off the episode 27, this is Cam.
And this is Caleb.
Sounds
Good night.
Sounds so radio. Good night. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Student Leadership News Podcast. Interact with us on social media and follow the news online at studentleadership.news.